Let's get it going. Labor Day Classic. We are jacked up to bring you pregame coverage ahead of the annual clash here in Regina. Blue Bombers, Rough Riders. To my virtual right, from parts unknown, Chris Walby joins the program. Pluto, you excited for this game, this great weekend that is Canadian football at its finest?
Well, let's start off with this, Darren. I'm excited we finally got this stupid phone to work. I'm using. I'm at the lake, and it's an older phone. And boy, I'm trying to change links and change things, but it just shows how much time and effort we're putting into this Bonfire Sports ahead of this great clash that's going to happen tomorrow. And yeah, you're right. I'm excited. I mean, as a guy that played in a lot of them, I just enjoy the heck out of it. And I don't care if they were both 0-10 right now. Just the clash of the Prairie Rivals makes it exciting.
Well, it's game day. We're here live in Regina. Chris Walby joining us from parts unknown. I don't know if you notice out there, but Bonfire Sports in this pregame show, it's like my initials, because Chris Walby, in his glory, camera mirrored, so we got a D and a B, but we won't let that stop us. You want to share where you're joining us from, Chris? I'm hanging out outside here, beautiful summer day in Regina. Where are you?
You see the water right behind me. I'm at the cabin right now. I got all my boys here today. It's probably the last long weekend. We're having great weather, so I got my one son in from Toronto. The other boys are here. So I was a little, and they're all excited, and two of them are retrievers. So I thought they were going to knock over the table here because I've got this fancy setup here. I think it's about a 25-cent setup here. Just trying to get this thing going. And God bless you, DB, for giving me all this stuff with the stand and the microphone, because otherwise I don't know how we're going to do it. But we're getting it done, buddy.
No, appreciate you joining us from the cabin, Chris. It's an important game. People want to hear your insight and analysis on these two teams, and maybe we'll dig into some good stories from Labor Day Classics gone by. Before we get into it all, there's lots of injury information to dig through today, key matchups, the Riders' offensive line and Cody Fajardo, the defense, Garrett Marino, all of that craziness that has a little anxiety and angst rolling through Bomber Nation right now, Chris. Before we do that, when you think about Labor Day and you think about those pilgrimages west to Regina through your nearly 2 decades in the Canadian Football League with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, what comes to mind first?
The fact we always had to take a bus, and these guys, they're treated like royalty now. They charter a plane. I was talking to the team physician yesterday, and he was just talking about how it's so nice. You get up in the morning, you fly there. They come right back after the game, so they get to sleep in their own beds after. But it's just a classic. I mean, for me, the memories of hanging out with guys like Roger Aldag and Bob Poley, a couple of Hall of Famers on the O-line, because the O-line, it doesn't matter what city you play in, whether it be Sacramento or you're in Regina or Birmingham, the O-line always are tight. They hang together. It's a brotherhood. And then, of course, playing guys like, Vince Goldsmith, Bobby J, Bobby Jurison. And the crowd. I always say this. I said, Winnipeg has great fans. I mean, they really do have great fans. But Saskatchewan, for some reason, I don't know if they're just all over the world, but when I was doing CBC, it was always a patch of green in every stadium. And they're just crazy. That's their big team. That's their big sports team in Saskatchewan, and they support them well.
Well, here's the thing, Chris. It's about football. Labor Day is about the game, but there's so much more to that. Like I went out last night in Regina, took in a little bit of the energy and culture that is here in Regina with, lots of Rider fans and Bomber fans that have arrived early, lots of talk and chatter and excitement about the weekend and the game. When you were a player, did you guys ever get into shenanigans before the game in Regina?
You know what? To be quite honest, there's a couple of us, and it's usually the O-line again. I can't talk about other positions, but yeah, we'd go out for dinner and we'd have a couple cold ones. It was a different time back then. I mean, we knew we had to be smart. We didn't get stupid. We didn't get pound excessive alcohol or anything. But we had a couple at the meal and just kind of relax. It was a way for us to tone down. And then we went back, and you always had meetings at night. And then basically it's curfew. You get into bed and you don't sleep because you're just basically so antsy to play the game. But Like, I'm even antsy thinking about it. Last night I was at the cabin. I'm still at the cabin. And it's funny. Sometimes I think I'm still playing. And I'm late for the plane or I'm late for the bus. And it just,
Really?
I guess it's just weird memories in my head. They go back in the Rolodex. And, I panic and you wake up and you go, oh, God, no, you're old, retired, man. Don't even worry about that. Just go to the bathroom. Do your old man thing. So, I mean, yeah, it's a good thing. Labor Day Classic is, like I said, and I know that a lot of guys, even on the panel yesterday, listening to them, they always say it's the start of the new season. It's where the real season begins. Well, that's not right. But, I mean, when you see what Ottawa did yesterday to Montreal and the East and how tight the East is, and, of course, the West with Saskatchewan coming after they had a big win last week in BC. Cody Fajardo had a heck of a game. I mean, he's dangerous, man. And that's what I love it. Like I said, I know I said that I wouldn't care if these guys are 0-10, but the fact is, Saskatchewan 6-5, Bombers 10-1. It is just going to be a great matchup. And Saskatchewan is. Don't look at the record, man. They got a good team.
No question. No question they have a good team. Like, just looking at their depth chart right now, Chris, it's littered with talent. I think there's so much on the defensive side. You talk about defensive lines like Robertson, AC Leonard, Zach Marino, Charleston Hughes able to rotate in to get pressure, and be fresh as, a guy that's been in the league for seemingly forever. There's a linebacking core in Saskatchewan, Chris, that's off the charts. Larry Dean at weak side, Darnell Sankey in the middle. And for my money, I talked a little bit about this on our road trip podcast that Ted Wyman of the Winnipeg Sun, Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press, and myself did, just kind of cruising through rural Saskatchewan. Say, hey, let's put up a little pod. You can find that on YouTube and the podcast channels. I talked about this man because he is so good, impactful in so many different ways on the defense. And that's number 42. You watch for him on Sunday, Derek Moncrief.
Yeah, he's he's got 4 interceptions. He's all over that linebacking crew. And I'll give you we talk about our linebacking crew. It's been decimated a little bit with Kyrie Wilson out. Adam Bighill, I don't know the status because, of course, I'm at the lake, so I'm sure you're going to fill me in on that with Biggie.
And now Malik Clements.
Well, Malik Clements too, exactly. But you look at those guys like Darnell Sankey led the league in tackles last year at Calgary. He comes to Saskatchewan, middle linebacker. He's the one that put that just tremendous hit on Michael O'Connor that knocked the BC quarterback out. Then you got Larry Dean, who is Mr. Everything. And you talk about that group of linebackers, the way they are right now, I don't think there's a better trio right now in the CFL than these three right now.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Maybe a good thing that the Blue Bombers' offensive line and maybe just the run game in particular going as well as it is. Still no Greg Ellingston for the Blue Bombers, of course, in the midst of a stint on the 6 game. What did you see from Greg McCrae in Winnipeg's last game, Chris? He was impressive player, diminutive. Man, he can sure get separation and give Claris a nice weapon.
Well, that's the thing. He's got good speed. He has a breakaway speed, which means he can break away from the coverage. And he's got great hands. That's the biggest thing he always. But you always think he must always have good hands because he's a returner. So most returners have good hands. But, it's one thing to just return the ball. It's another to be a receiver. We have to understand where to run the routes. Is it a zone coverage? Do I run through the zone? Is it man? Do I break it off? Is a quarterback in trouble? Do I come back to the ball? There's so many things or nuances that a receiver has to understand and employ during the game. I was very impressed with Greg. I think I don't think they're ever going to say they're surprised because they bring him in because they know they got talent. But I was really impressed with Greg McCrae. I think he's a guy that could do some real serious things. And of course, I think Greg is great, but the guy that I want to see, and I know he's going to have a big game because he had his biggest game last week against Calgary, is Nick Demski. Going back to the team that drafted him, Nick Demski is just. I said this from the beginning. He is just a game breaker. X Factor type guy, comes up with big plays whenever they need a big play. Gotta love the homeboy right there, the homegrown guy.
No question. Demski, for my dollar, Chris, is one of those players that has really evolved his game throughout his CFL career. Obviously, a first-round pick of the Saskatchewan Roughriders out of the University of Manitoba. I don't know if you agree with me with this, Chris, but when I think about Nick Demski and see what we've seen from him this year and what we've heard from him this year, as well as the coaches and the coordinators, talking about his leadership. And you know, he's kind of opening up a new chapter, if you will, in his playing career, where he is bringing guys along, being that leader. No longer is Nick Demski the young guy from Oak Park. He is now, you know, the go-to Canadian guy on this Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. I see him effectively being the new Andrew Harris. Of course, I'm not comparing those two guys, other than both being Winnipeggers from Oak Park. And of course, yes, there's Brady Oliveira as well. But Nick Demski has put more on his shoulders. He has wanted that responsibility and role on the team to increase. And I think it's a great thing. I think people should recognize that Nick Demski is a true talent, not just on the football field, but professionally, how he carries himself and how he mentors and leads off the field.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's what happens when a guy develops the proper way. First off, they have an incredible culture in the Bombers. You know, the whole place, the locker room. You know, that F you, F off. You know, that one is fit in or F off. You know, FIFO. I mean, that's the philosophy. Yeah, but the nice thing I like, exactly. But the thing I like about it is you see a guy develop like Nick Demski, who very quiet. And I love when guys come in, they don't trash talk. They learn from the vets, and then gradually, as they get more respect and they start performing more and more in the field, they become a voice. And now Nick Demski's that. He's a voice in the locker room. He's respected. Because you just can't come in first year and start fucking, you know, barking at they do, because it's not going to work. And you're going to lose a lot of respect. And I've seen guys in the locker room come in, they may be just out of the NFL, and they think they're coming up here for a cup of tea, and, you know, this is a garbage league, and they come in here and they get straightened out real quick.
Well, as they should, right? Like, it's not like the Blue Bombers are in the phase of Ottawa or in the phase of Edmonton where they're trying to figure it out. This team is locked in from top to bottom. You know, I had somebody in the Blue Bombers organization tell me during training camp this year that they know exactly what they're doing every single day, from day one of rookie camp and physicals all the way through to the playoffs and wherever that leads them. They know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. It's a schedule. It's a plan. It's all there in place. So you can't imagine a guy coming here and being like, oh, I'm going to, you know, create my own little clique in the locker room. No. You got Bighill, you got Kolaris, and you got all the rest of the cast of characters that are the leadership on this team. For my dollar, I think you'd agree with me, Chris, everybody out there. That Mike O'Shea mentality has proven to be an extremely historically effective mentality for a football team. Did you ever have anything like that in the room where it was the players governed and the coaches just kind of coached?
Yeah, a couple times. Murphy, he was Iron Fist kind of guy. Irishman, he was away. He didn't like put schedules up, for instance. He would never like you to know that you're going to get a week off here, because he thought players would flag off and they wouldn't understand. You know, and O'Shea does the exact opposite as you say. He posts this, which you're going to be off for 3 days. Your players different too. That's the biggest thing. From when I played to now, you can see players taking care of themselves. Mind you, having said that, I was watching Pat Neufeld and Michael Couture at La Burger Week.
Yes.
Was it Nicolina's?
They put the work in.
Yes. But if these guys had a Walby burger, it would last like 6 seconds with these guys.
Well, they look like sliders in those hands, right? Like just.
Oh, I love it when they. That's to me. I always just laugh when the O-line, because I mean, I still remember when they used to say, you know, the O-line are just fat, slow guys, and you just put them on the line and block. And now they realize they're highly skilled individuals and very intelligent. Probably the second most intelligent. I always say that because the quarterbacks have to know so much, but the O-line has to know how to block everything 3-4 different ways, because, you know, the D-line can shift every play. They can move all over where you're stuck in, you know, stationary with your 3-point stance or a 2-point if you got your hands on your knees. So, I mean, you have to know, and you have to verbalize, and you have to understand, bang, you know, I got to take this guy. Oh, not him. Now I got a double block. Oh, you know what? I got him. I got to kick out. So, I mean, it's just, these are things that I think make me proud that I'm part of that alumni of O-linemen, not just of football, but of the O-linemen.
Okay, so while we're on that, the Blue Bombers offensive line, let's not look past the 900-pound gorilla in the room, and I mean no pun intended by that. Garrett Marino on the interior of the Saskatchewan Roughriders defensive line. He has made ripples and rifts through the league on multiple occasions this year, Chris, on the field, most definitely off the field, and how he's chosen to handle himself and speak about, the unfortunate injury and BS, unfortunate injury to Jeremiah Masoli and BS reaction and play and all the rest. Can I just get Chris Walby's take on Garrett Marino, the way he plays and the way he, I don't know, seems to be shameless in celebrating when there's players down on the field injured?
Well, that's a big. I mean, I don't mind a guy. I like a guy that plays to the whistle, but he takes it one step further. I think he got smeared pretty good, and deservedly so, when he said he had apologized to Mazzoli, and we know he didn't reach out to Mazzoli, Jeremiah. That was all just contrite. He just put that in the paper to kind of take some of the pressure off him, and he takes penalty. This is a guy that only has one sack. Now, is he an effective player? You saw our whole line. Our whole line spoke highly of him. They say he's very competitive. And you know what? Because they don't want to put no fodder on the billboard, right? You're not going to dog the guy. But I don't have to play against the guy. And I'll tell you right now, for my money, I mean, they should be talking more about Pete Robertson and Anthony Lanier, who I don't know if he's even playing. I think he has a head injury. He might be out. That guy has 7 sacks. So, I mean, and then you got Charleston Hughes, who's been around the league for a lot. I mean, 3 forced fumble. AC Leonard is always a good football player, and I know that this Marino got upset because he wasn't listed as a starter. He didn't like the fact that it came out, and nobody should look at that list anyway. It's just garbage because Here's
the thing: he's not listed as a starter. Yeah. Snap number 2 in the game, he's on the field pretty much the rest of the game.
But Saskatchewan has issues, and I hope that Craig is okay. I know he was suffering from COVID symptoms. They said he was going to be back today. Projected he'd be back today.
Yeah.
We'll see if he is. I know Jason Moss was thinking he doesn't know who's going to be calling the offensive plays. I know they had a special team guy who was talking about he was doing some stuff running practice. But this is a team that's dead last. They've taken almost 1,000 yards in penalties. It hurts your team. I mean, we had a year where we had so many penalties that Cal started finding us. Now, you couldn't do it now because the player association would stick up for you. But the fact is, the only way he thought that he could get through to some people was through their wallet. And boy, it did change. You started getting hit $25 and $50 fines for taking a stupid penalty.
Bottom line.
It comes out of your pocket, man. You're taking, you maybe needs new shoes. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But, yeah, listen, anyway, to sum up Garrett, I think he's a good football player. But I think he takes things to the extreme. He's not I don't know why he's acting the way he's acting. He's acting like a spoiled child, doesn't get the best present at Christmas. I think he just needs to play else the way it happens. But if this team starts taking penalties tomorrow and extends drives for the Bombers, it's going to be an ugly game for them.
This is last thing on Marino, because, as much as he is a story, all of that, should we waste our time talking about a guy like him? That's kind of the way I think about it. But this is what I've heard so many Bombers fans say and ask, and even media, over a cold one on a late Regina night. Would Mike O'Shea still have Garrett Marino on his football team?
Good question. Very good question. I don't know. I guess the only way you could answer that is how Garrett Marino is inside the locker room. That's the big key. If he's just a horse's ass, well, yeah. If he's just a horse's ass to other teams, well, then the players aren't going to get crazy about it. But if he's an asshole or a horse's butt in the locker room,
do you want a teammate that is like pumping, throwing his hands up to the crowd and celebrating and peacocking around when a quarterback is down on the field and getting carted off and his season's done? That's the type of guy this guy is. You want to be a teammate with a guy like that?
Yeah. Well,
he's a good football player, but come on, it's not like
no. I will say this in his defense, and I don't like to defend the man, but I think sometimes emotions get carried away, and maybe he didn't realize, like, if he was doing that celebration as the guy was getting actually carted off, I'd be very upset. If he just reacted to the sack and, was just getting exuberant and just doing his thing.
No, he was walking off the field. He was behind the sidelines, walking off the field, going like this to the crowd. He got ejected.
He needs an Angela Mosca head slap. That's what he needs. That'll straighten that young man out.
Well, Michael Couture was practicing for the Blue Bombers, of course, has been on the 6th game with a broken arm, has a cast on at practice. He's hitting. They, obviously the padded practices are only 12 per year, but following practice, Michael Couture chose to put the pads on and work with one of the new linebackers added to the Blue Bombers practice roster. They were smacking, they were hitting, they were, doing hard snap counts and that sort of thing and getting Michael Couture ready, but he is not in the lineup. It'll once again be Chris Kolinkowski at center on the Blue Bombers offensive line going up against, I think you'd agree with me, Chris, we talked about it earlier, maybe the best front 7 in the league in the Saskatchewan Roughriders. We talked about Cody Fajardo, but I want to talk about Zach Collaros and what you're seeing from him. He has had those multi-interception games. I don't think there's too much, reason for concern with Zach Collaros, but now he's going up against a defensive front and a talented back end like Moncrief, Sankey, Dean. In addition to that D line, some good players on the back end, Mike Edom at safety, Nick Marshall at corner, and not being with your full complement of receivers, right?
Yeah.
Do you see the biggest matchup in this game? I think it's Winnipeg's offense versus Sask's defense. It's going to be up to Zach Collaros to make things happen. That pocket's going to collapse on Sunday.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you look at it, and Shivers, the defensive coordinator, loves to bring his secondary up. He loves a lot of safety blitzes. Mike Edom has 2 sacks. You got Roland Mulligan, a halfback. He comes up. He's got a couple sacks. These guys get after it. You're talking about Pete Robertson, who's tied for the league with 8 sacks. AC Leonard's got 3, but he's got I think he's got 4 forced fumbles, 3 forced fumbles, or something like that. So these guys really get at it. It's going to be tough. I think it'll be a game where Brady Oliveira, whoever's in there, it'll probably be Brady or Johnny if he gets a bit. They're going to have to really work well with that offense to pick up where that blitz is coming from. Because actually, it's not going to bring just 4. They're going to bring 6. They're going to bring 7. And they're going to try and rush and get into the face and the rhythm of Zach Collaros. So it'll be really interesting. That's why it's a great matchup. Then conversely, I see you putting up Saskatchewan's depth chart. Fajardo had his best game after really got benched the game prior. Then he throws for 300 yards last week against BC, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But the biggest thing that Cody Fajardo did last week was he utilized his legs. He ran 6 times for 38 or 39 yards. And when he starts doing that, he is a 2-dimensional player. And if you keep Cody in the pocket, I mean, he still got sacked 7 times last week. Sacks, most in the league. I mean, Edmonton is next last with 32. They're just getting beat badly. So if Cody can't move, it's over. But you know what? I think Saskatchewan fans are seeing the old Cody, the way he ran it around in BC. He says he feels good. His wife's in town. They're expecting their first one. So, he's excited to play and put on a performance for the fans. So there's something about that, about Saskatchewan that intrigues me because but I think the fact that their offense with the receivers they have, Kyron Moore, Shaq Evans. I mean, this kid here, I love this Keon Schaefer-Baker.
Yeah. Don't sleep on Brendan Lenius.
Oh yeah, that's right. There you go. The guy came back and big 6'5", came back from the NFL, and I was listening to the talk, and the coach was saying he hasn't missed a beat because he remembers the playbook. So he's right in there. I mean, they have a talent, and you know what? Don't even worry about the receivers here, boys. If you're a fan of football and you're a fan of running backs, watch this Frankie Hickson kid.
Yeah, there's been no fall off from Hickson. From Jamal Morrow, who was right there with Kadeem Carey, is one of the top tailbacks early in the season. Hickson is
he is explosive, and he lowers the shoulder. And he likes to run.
Right? He puts it bang on.
He's averaging seven plus yards a carry. I mean, he gets it done, man. The kid is exciting to watch. Like, he's got a burst of speed too. So if he gets a breakaway, that's the thing. Now, going back to the other thing, you didn't answer my question. I wanted to ask you, because obviously I don't have a depth chart for Winnipeg right now, but it's nice you told me that Couture's not playing, and I think that's a good thing, because I think Couture should be, if he's getting Lankowski, the kid playing center right now, is doing a pretty good job. But Biggie, how's Biggie?
So Adam Bighill was limited in practice. What does that mean? Well, when it comes to the CFL's new injury reports, Chris, it's effectively, you're not on it if you practice. If you're limited, you're on it, and if you're on it at any point in the prep week, you are officially questionable for the game. So take that with a grain of salt. Some guys are doubtful for the game. That's what Michael Couture was. That's what Malik Clements was, right? But no Demario Houston. I'll just kind of give a quick injury rundown. No Demario Houston. So rookie Jamal Parker steps in. Winston Rose moves to the other side of the defense. He'll be lined up next to Dietrich Nichols, taking on those top matchups, probably going up against Brandon Lenius and Keenan Schaefer-Baker a lot on Sunday. Malcolm Thompson returns at safety, but he's listed as the backup to Nick Hallett, so I wonder how healthy he actually is. And then Bighill was limited. So he was in gear, taped up, ready to go, but didn't really participate in a ton of the sessions that Bombers were doing in practice, right? So
keeping him fresh.
I don't think it's super concerning, but it is something to be aware of that, Malik Clements is hurt. Kyrie Wilson, unlikely to play again this season. The Bombers do have a lot of depth with Shingoche and Jesse Briggs and the global Maruo, but losing those guys is really tough. They do have an American linebacker that's been playing on specials quite well. Number 41, I think he is, Cole. Forgive me, I don't have the first name on hand, but he is one of those guys that may step up in the linebacking core as well. Expect a lot of different looks from the Blue Bombers linebacking core this week.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that one of the things that I think the league, as in general, and I know the Bombers do it, is they really allow a player to, and of course, Biggie's in a different scenario. He knows that defense. He knows everything about it. He doesn't need to take the contact right now. So even if he's just getting some massage, some ultrasound on the shoulder to try to take some of the sting away, he's such a competitor. He'll be in there. So I think it's gonna be fantastic to watch him. They can't lose Biggie. Biggie is like, seriously. I think he might be. I know we talk about Jackson Jeffcoat and Willie Jefferson, and they are great and deserve all the accolades they get. But to my mind, Biggie, Adam Bighill, is the heartbeat of that defense.
Without question, on and off the field, Adam Bighill is everything and more. And big thanks to Booch27, who's watching live on YouTube. Brian Cole, number 41. You can see him there listed behind Jesse Briggs and Tanner Cadwallader, another Canadian, on the Blue Bombers depth chart at weak side linebacker. It'll be interesting, Chris, with that beat-up linebacking core, how Winnipeg's defensive front, of course, Willie Jefferson, Jackson Jeffcoat, Casey Sales, Jake Thomas, Cameron Lawson, Ricky Walker, all of those guys. Cedric Wilcott steps in for the first time in just about a month and a half. And Yadrick Hansen, of course. How will those guys, they're dressing 8. They've dressed 8 pretty much all year. Lots of rotation, obviously lots of Willie and lots of Jackson on the edges. But they're going to have to carry the load on getting pressure on this beat up and a little bit of Swiss cheese Saskatchewan Roughriders offensive line. That's going to be important to win that battle. Not just win that battle, Chris, dominate that battle. Winnipeg's D front versus Sask's beat up offensive line, because that's one way Winnipeg is going to be able to counter the dangerous pass attack. You can say what you want about Cody Fajardo and his knee injury. He looks a little bit better than he did before the bye week a couple weeks ago, but clearly that knee affects his ability to throw the football. But they've got a lot of weapons. You mentioned Frankie Hickson. Bombers D-line, critical that they dominate on Sunday. Otherwise, I think Saskatchewan's going to be able to put up some yards and some points.
So when you showed me the depth chart, I know that Taron Vaughn is in the lineup, number 65. I think he's a tackle for Saskatchewan right now. I wanted to see if he's taken over for Jamal Campbell or if he's from Andrew Lauderdale. I wasn't sure which one he was going to replace.
Is not on the roster.
He's not on the roster.
He is not.
Wow, because they just interviewed him, and they were asking him about the game. I guess he went to school with Willie Jefferson. And
Okay.
he's played against him a number of times, and he said, I'm looking forward to it. And so I thought he'd be in the line. I made a special mark on my notes here.
Yeah. So Saskatchewan
Really,
line, Josiah St. John back at right tackle, Lauderdale at left tackle.
What?
Yes.
Who's at right tackle?
Josiah St. John, the former first overall draft pick in the CFL.
Oh, God. Oh, the boys are okay. I'm going to say, let's see, over under 3.5 sacks. Oh, God. I hate to say it, buddy, but he has not lived up to the hype.
Good time to mention this right here. SIA.com/bonfire. Go there, sign up, get a bonus. If you do it right now, you can put a sprinkle on the game tomorrow, on the CFL games on Sunday and Monday. But go to this exclusive link, SIA.com/bonfire. And right there, you'll be able to help us out here on the channel directly. And you'll get yourself a nice bonus too. I think it's like minimum $20 deposit, but you can get up to $500 doubled in your account, which is a really, really nice thing if you want to get things started on SIA.com. And yeah, you can bet on the sacks, you can bet on pass completions, yards, lots of prop bets that pop up day of the game. Are you surprised the Bombers are only 3.5-point favorites, Chris?
No, I'm not, DB, because it's in Saskatchewan. It's going to be loud. It's a sold-out game. It's so hard to hear. I mean, usually when you get crowd noise, it usually translates into, one or two procedure calls by the offense. So you go first sound, you go a long snap. Well, you can't go long snap most of the time because 3 could sound like 2, and you don't know when to go. So the crowd is a huge. That's why they call the crowd the 13th man. So I mean, I think that's why it's like that.
Tell us what the silent count is. And when you're in a crazy loud environment like the Blue Bombers offense will be, Chris Kolinkowski making the calls at the line, snapping to Zach Collars. How does that work in a silent count? What is that?
It's just like you walk up, you'll tap the butt and basically go. So it's like you're in your own head, you're going, it's a silent count, but it's like boom. As soon as the ball, the line sees, you can kind of feel the guard in the center anyway. You can feel that the quarterback's right underneath, and then you're basically going. And that's why it's so tough.
That's going to be tough with shotgun. Right?
And I know that, shotgun's tough. But I like shotgun for one thing, and that gives the quarterback more time to look downfield, especially with an aggressive defense. But having said that, you know what? I was looking at the stats, and the Bombers are 4-0 against Saskatchewan the last 4 games. They have sacked Cody Fajardo 15 times, only allowed 1 touchdown. They've given up 15 sacks. Willie Jefferson had 3, Jeff Coe 2, and a number of other players. It's just when I look at those stats, I go, wow. Because I know the Bombers are just dominant on defense. But there's a lot of changes, right? You don't have Brandon Alexander in there. You don't have, a lot of guys there. Malcolm Thompson or, whoever's there. I mean, Jamal Parker's in there now. I mean, you got a bunch of changes. So that's what makes the game interesting is to see how the new guys who I don't even – well, a lot of these guys played in big schools. And, they're playing in front of 50, 60,000, fans. So I don't think it's a huge thing. But that noise that reverberates in that small stadium, I mean, I think they got 33,000, 34,000.
They got 33,500. Yep.
Wow. I mean, it's going to be – you're going to have a great time. I'm going to tell you right now. You're going to enjoy that game so much. And it's going to go – those games go so fast. They just go so fast, man, because you're right into it. As a player, you love it. I love going to Saskatchewan. I would go after the game. I'd go down to the green and white room and have a couple beers. I'm a kind of guy that I like to mingle with everybody, but you know that. So, but yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned the big schools that these guys play at. 50, 60,000 plus. Across the southern U.S. and the eastern seaboard. But the one thing that they didn't deal with in those loud environments on offense was the waggle. So if you're Greg McCrae, talking to Greg McCrae this week, Chris, he talked about how he picked up the waggle very quickly. Comes to training camp, okay, 29, you're a kick returner, you're a tailback. That's who you're working with. Well, suddenly he's lining up at receiver and working in the slot because he's really good at the waggle. Like, boom, he just figured it out. Not everybody's able to do that. How do you do the waggle in the loud environment to ensure you hit the line of scrimmage at the right time? I guess everybody's going to be watching Zach Collaros' leg. They do that kind of leg lift, right, when he kind of sends guys in motion.
Well, yeah, that's the receivers for sure. But the other thing that's interesting about that too, you mentioned, is just the waggle for the DB is probably that's why I think the halfbacks in the league they're in the toughest position, because you not only do I got to pick up this guy coming off the waggle, but I can't contact him past 5 yards. If I go to contact him and I miss him, well, he's gone. If I don't and I just run with him, well, then I'm letting the play develop, because the whole thing is, if you got a quarterback and the timing, you want to kind of disrupt that quarterback. But I mean, Zach is that. I mean, he's Zach, the Zach attack. He's 5-0 in Labor Day Classics. I kind of thought that was interesting. He won 3 with Hamilton, 1 with Saskatchewan over Winnipeg, and last year with Winnipeg over Saskatchewan. So, he's got the resume there, boy. I tell you, the way he's playing, and the way Brady Oliveira is running the ball now, he's like a different man. 100 miles an hour, north, south, not dancing in the hole anymore, not doing the polka.
That's hesitation.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the results. He's leading the league in rushing, but I'm happy for the young man. I really am. I think that was one of the missing components for me, and I think that's going to give them definitely is a big factor in the game to take away some of that edge from the BC rush.
Absolutely. Appreciate everybody out there watching live on YouTube and Facebook, live on Twitter. Head over to youtube.com/Bonfire Sports. Everybody out there, do us a favor right now. Go give us a thumbs up in the description. Go subscribe if you haven't yet. If you want to consider that, we'd appreciate it a lot. Chris Walby joining us from parts unknown, a beautiful lake behind you. I'm on a balcony here in Regina. there's the dock. Nice.
There's a dock, the boat, my pontoon's over there, baby.
Got your Canadian flag, enjoying the long weekend. Special time in the Canadian Football League right now, and really glad you're able to join us, Chris, from the lake. We didn't know how the technology was going to work, but everything seems to be pretty smooth overall. So that's a great thing.
I'm sure glad they didn't have me on camera about a half an hour or 45 minutes ago, because all you would have heard is a bunch of beeps.
Oh, I had you on the phone. For those I had Chris on the phone, 20 minutes before.
I was not happy. I couldn't get anything to work, and I was just, I tell you, if this phone turned, my phone blushed because of the language I heard. I said so. He was just bad. All my kids talking in the back, they didn't want to see me in the front now. So,
well, you got your Kyocera flip phone. That's the problem. It's maybe time to upgrade.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to do some of that. But you know what? I also think that just like I said, we've been blessed. And it's funny you mentioned one more thing I was going to say. You talked about them dressing 8 linemen. Well, it's going to be a scorcher in Saskatchewan tomorrow, too.
Yes.
I heard 30 plus. So, and when it's hot and it's muggy, you definitely want to make sure you're giving guys rotation to keep them fresh. That's the biggest thing.
Well, and with
I'll be in the water. I'll be in the water, baby.
Yeah, no, I'm jealous. The Pill Country they'll be trying to buoy themselves in Pill Country, because I think there'll be a lot flowing in that end zone at Mosaic.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah.
Hey,
that's the other.
Going to be electric.
That's the other thing. You know what? The biggest thing that happens is, and they always talk about it, you must take the crowd out of the game. And the only way to do that is strike fast and strike often. You don't want Saskatchewan to come out and start that old momentum. Boy, I tell you, that can really be an ugly thing to get off your shoulder. So, especially in Saskatchewan, because I think we've lost 14 of 16. It's a difficult place to play. It really is. I think people sometimes take it for granted, but I know with some games.
Wanderers are 10-1, and Sask can't beat anybody but teams in the East or a Nathan Rourkeless BC Lions team. That doesn't matter. Throw the records out the window. The famous 2013 Billboard battle, right? 7-1 versus 1-7, and what happened?
Yeah,
the team that was 1-7 beat the team with 1 loss on the season. You never.
Well, I think I was listening to Jamarcus Hardrick. I listened to his interview, and he was talking about. He might have been with you, as a matter of fact, but he was talking about he played for Corey Chamberlain, and they were 1-9, and and then they got reply Bobby Dice, and all Bobby Dice said was, "Hey, just win the Labor Day game. Let's win it," and they won, and they were huge underdogs. So I mean, take that point spread and put it where the sun don't shine, because I think that this is going to be a battle, and they're always close games. I think it's going to be just a great battle. I'm excited. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to have my cooler full, got my TV in my garage, got a bunch of people. We're going to get around. I would wear my uniform my bomber colors, but I'll probably be half naked by that time. So
I would love to see you gear up to watch the game at the lake with your friends. What do you got? 24 people coming out later today, Chris. You got the dogs and everybody. It's gonna be a good atmosphere. Forget Regina. I think the spot's gonna be Castle Walby on the lake.
There's a guy, and I wish he was here. He just passed away. One of my best, just a great Harold Cook, and he lived 2 doors down from me at the cabin here. And he was born green. He's from Saskatchewan. Just loved it, and it became a classic for him. So he raised horses. So he'd bring his horse. He'd ride through my yard here, and I got a 2-acre property out here. He'd ride through my property with a green flag, just off as like a cape, and then his horse would leave a bunch of messages. He'd drop about. I guess he must have fed him X-Blacks before the game or before he came around. But the horse would leave all these nice little. Oh, look at that one! Oh, that's a nice pile. And then he'd take off. So yeah, we just had some fun. We put flags up. I had the Bomber flag on my dock. He had the Saskatchewan flag on. And then in the middle of the night, they'd try and steal the flags. It was a great thing. I mean,
really?
And you gotta love that, man. You gotta love stuff like that. It's just
rivalry, right?
Yeah, and it just was fun. I mean, yeah, it's good, man.
I bumped into a guy last night. He's wearing a Chris Getzlaff jersey. Great story about your friend, by the way. But wearing his Chris Getzlaff jersey, and he walks up to a bunch of Bomber fans. He goes, "I'm from Winnipeg, and the Riders are better than the Bombers this week." And it's like,
yeah,
there's one in every room, as they say.
There's every
room you walk into in Winnipeg.
They're going to have fun. And that's the best thing. I mean, like you said, and I think when you came over, I think we had a couple cold ones this week in the backyard. You were talking about it, the youth. The amount of young people at the games, and we can only talk about Winnipeg right now because that's where they're there. But the amount of youth that's at the IG field, incredible. That's just such a beautiful thing for the future. I mean, when you get the young fans involved and they get excited and they want to come out and they want to be part of it, it just pumps really nice stuff for the CFL.
Yeah, no doubt. Just walking through the concourse at IG Field, like I did middle of the fourth quarter. In the last home game, it's a bunch of 20-somethings and 30-somethings, and they're having fun. They're decked out in Bomber gear. Like it's an old trope to me that the CFL is an aging fan base. I think it's, older people appreciate the tradition and are very engaged in the game. But when it comes to home games, and frankly, we know this, ticket sales fuel CFL clubs and their bottom line.
Yeah, man.
If you're able to get your thing full, like Ottawa was a couple years ago, great young fan base there. Hamilton, I know Ottawa's doing a little bit tougher right now with how they're playing. Edmonton has gone from very good to not very good because what has it been 1,000 days since they've won a football game? Throwing the at home, they're throwing the pandemic in there as well. BC seems to be rejuvenating, but here in Saskatchewan, in Winnipeg. It's tons of young people that love going to the games, soaking in the atmosphere, soaking in the energy, and having fun with their friends. People coming out here.
Said.
Who's making the road trip, right? It's a lot of young people, a lot of young guys and gals that are coming here to Regina this week. If you're making the trip, this is what I want everyone to do out there on Bonfire. Text the hotline if you're making the trip. Even if you're listening to this non-live, like after the fact, or you're watching or checking the podcast, text me at 816-TIPS, 204-816-8477. It's the number on your screen right there. Let me know that you were in Regina. Tell me your story. I want to know about why you came and how often you come. If it's your first time, what you're most excited for. We want to hear that, and I'll share it to the Bonfire audience. I think that would be a great thing.
What about if every fan at the game that comes from Winnipeg walks up to Darrin Bauming and says, "Hey, DB, love you, man. Now buy me a cold one."
Oh,
Yeah,
Chris,
that's good.
you didn't send me my per diem out here. You know, I'm starving. I haven't had breakfast yet. Like,
Yeah, I haven't had. Hey, listen, with the amount of money I'm making on this show, I can't even afford a shirt with sleeves. So let's not get carried away.
I'm making you a shirt. I'm getting the iron out at home. We're gonna put a bonfire logo. I found a shirt that
That's
fits you,
good.
Chris. I'm excited for that. But everybody out there, appreciate you joining us here on the channel. Guess you want to give me your keys to the game, Chris? We've touched on a lot of those key things: Sask's offense, Winnipeg's defense, vice versa. We haven't talked too much about special teams and Mark Leggio. In a game like this, it could come down to a kick.
Yeah, Mark was 1 for 1 last week against Calgary. Still kicking at 80%, which is not bad. I'm really being impressed with his punting. The other guy on the other side, I mean, Brett Lother he's 88%, almost 90%. But the end thing about him is he's 3 for 3 on kicks over 50 yards. You know, that's the interesting thing is that Leggio hasn't attempted a kick over 50. So I don't know if it would be one of those things where he didn't have to, or if the coach doesn't have the confidence in giving him an opportunity and just try to punt it and keep him deep. So see what you do with that. But no, and I think for me, a key is I think for the Bomber defense, just keep Saskatchewan. They're the worst team on second down conversions by far. So if you put them in second and long situations, you're usually going to come on the right side of that one. For the Bombers, I think you got to get Brady. I think Brady's going to have a big game. I think Nick's always going to – Demski's going to have a game. I know that in Saskatchewan. But I think Brady might have a breakout game, and he's going to have a great game with that old line. And the old line, really, I'm going to tell you right now, all those guys, Kolonkowski, you know, all the boys up there, great. They're going to have a whale of the toughest fronts. They're going to – Montreal had a good front four, and look at the pressure they put on us. So, see how they do in there.
No question. I think for Winnipeg's offense, similar to the game against Calgary, if they choose to bracket Dalton Schoen like Calgary did, you feed Nick Demski. They choose to bracket Nick Demski, you go to Greg McCrae. Winnipeg can be effective no matter who they're targeting on offense. Yeah, they would love to have Greg Ellingson in there. They would love to have a big body like Carlton Agadosi box up small DBs in the end zone. But I think they have enough punch to move the chains and make it happen against a very, very good defensive front in particular, but very good defense under Jason Shivers in Saskatchewan. Defensively for Winnipeg, I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. It's all about getting pressure on Cody Fajardo. They're talented on the outside. They're beat up on the inside, and that offensive line in particular. Yeah, you got to make sure you keep things true with Frankie Hickson. You know, I'm curious to see how Jason Moss uses play action. You know, hopefully the crowd, I'm sure for Saskatchewan's sake, you know, they're hoping or expecting the crowd to be a little bit quieter during those times. High football IQ fans here. But, you know, there might be 6,000 Bomber fans that can make a pretty good amount of noise when the Riders' offense is on the field. But play action, Frankie Hickson, all the rest. I think that's going to be a key X factor in how Winnipeg handles the Saskatchewan Roughriders offensively.
Yeah, I think they got to keep Cody in the pocket. I think that's something I should mention. I think that if you let Cody get outside, he starts stretching the defense. I think he is starting to get confident running the ball. He says he feels good. And like I said this in the beginning of the podcast, he is really energized because he's expecting his first child, a son, any day, I think, within the next couple of weeks. His wife is here for the first time in a long time. He is playing for family. And when the family's watching him, I think he's going to be jacked right up to the sky. So you gotta take the wind out of the young man, and I mean, you got to keep him, corral him, keep him in the middle, get some good pressure from Willie and Jackson, Jake and the boys in the middle, take them down, and then there'll be a nice charter home where they can have a couple cold ones on a plane, and you can buy some for all the guys out there.
I might have to buy a box or two, right? Turkinator, who usually asks me questions on the Bonfire hotline, texts me there, and I always get back to people if they have questions there. But Turk asking for everybody, what's the word on Carlton Agadosi? Still on the 6-game injured list. I have not even seen him during practice. At 6'7" or whatever he is, you can't miss the guy. He hasn't been on the field with the team, so it really makes you wonder how serious his injury is. But 2 touchdowns, 1 game, makes this huge explosion onto the scene in his first CFL start, and we haven't seen him since. So no update on Carlton Agadosi, but boy, oh boy, this atmosphere in Regina for the Labor Day Classic is going to be great, Chris. I think we'll leave it there. I want you to get back to the lake and the dock and the crazy dogs, and make sure you got enough.
There it is, right there, boys. There's the boat, the dock, right there. A little bit of my heritage there, little Viking thing there. Woo! Yeah, man. There we go. See, you got. Nice. There's my kid's dog, the Moose. Look at this Moose here.
Oh, that's a big Mastiff.
He's that's a big English Mastiff.
Beautiful.
Anyway, with that, I'll say adios. Go Blue, and I'll tell you right now, I know we're all juiced and jacked to watch this game, so I hope they play well. I'm looking forward. Just a great game, no matter what. But I'm excited. It's if I got the juices going like I was playing back then. But if you saw me walk, you'd know I can't play anymore.
Well, people just want to hear from you, Chris. That's why we bring it to them here on Bonfire Sports. Post game, after the game, don't miss it. Game day after dark. The Schnitz, Zach Schnitzer, will join me as he always does. Tuesday we'll get Bonfire midweek going, and then Chris, we're gonna do it all over again for the Banjo Bowl next week. We will do live pregame coverage. Me and you, maybe in parts more familiar to the viewers out there ahead of the Banjo Bowl, but the day before the game, as we always do. Thanks everybody for joining us. Final word to the man, Chris.
Yes. Let's go, baby. I tell you right now, hey, look at that guy. I tell you, that you know what? That's the face of a thirsty man. So I have to go. See ya. Goodbye. If I can figure.